My name is Samuel, and I'm 50 years old, born and raised right here in Brooklyn, the same streets, the same brownstones, the same rhythm of life thrumming just outside my window every single morning. For most of my life, I worked with my hands, a carpenter, a craftsman building things that lasted, fixing things that were broken, making furniture that would see families through generations. I took pride in that, in the honest sweat on my brow and the solid feel of wood grain beneath my fingertips. But lately, things had been different, quieter. My wife, Sarah, she passed a few years back, and it felt like a part of me went with her, leaving behind an ache that never quite faded, a silence in the apartment that was deafening. The commission slowed down. People wanted cheaper, faster, throwaway pieces, not the kind of heirloom work I specialized in. My workshop, once a buzzing symphony of saws and hammers, became a tomb of sawdust and forgotten tools. I found myself staring out the window more often than working, watching the neighborhood kids play, but feeling a million miles away, a ghost in my own home. I started to wonder if my best years were behind me, if my skills, my knowledge, my very purpose had simply run their course. That was my internal nemesis, that creeping doubt, that whisper that said, "Samuel, you're just not needed anymore." It was a heavy weight, heavier than any beam I'd ever lifted. Then one crisp autumn morning, I took my usual walk through Prospect Park, a routine I'd started after Sarah left, just to feel the city breathing around me. I passed by the old playground, the one I'd practically lived on as a boy. My eyes drifted to the swing set, a skeletal frame against the bright sky. The chains were rusted, snapped in places, and the seats were gone, replaced by empty air, swaying uselessly in the breeze like broken memories. A pang went through me, sharp and sudden. I remembered the feeling of soaring, the wind in my hair, my mother calling my name from a bench. These swings, they weren't just metal and wood. They were a piece of my childhood, a piece of this neighborhood's heart, and they were broken. Just like I quietly admitted to myself, I felt broken. A thought sparked, a tiny flicker in the dark. I could fix them. I had the tools, I had the know-how, and honestly, I had too much time on my hands. Maybe, just maybe, if I could bring those swings back to life, I could bring a little life back into myself. So I started. I spent days researching, hunting down industrial-grade chains, finding sturdy, weather-resistant lumber for the seats. It wasn't just a quick patch-up. I wanted to do it right, to make them strong, safe, better than new, built to last another 50 years. I cleared out a corner of my dormant workshop. The scent of fresh cut would a welcome change from the stale air. I found a renewed sense of purpose as I sharpened my saws and oiled my drills. Each cut, each measurement, each swing of the hammer felt meaningful, a small act of defiance against the creeping feeling of uselessness. I hauled the heavy lumber and chains to the park on an old handcart, my muscles protesting but my spirit stirring. I started by removing the old, crumbling pieces, carefully scraping away rust, strengthening the frame. It was harder than I remembered physical work being. My back ached, my hands were calloused, but I pushed through, driven by the image of children laughing, flying through the air. I was making good progress, the main frame reinforced, a fresh coat of rust-proof paint gleaming under the sun. I had even managed to install 2 new swings, strong and sturdy, and a little girl and her father had stopped by to thank me, their smiles a precious reward. I felt a surge of warmth, a connection I hadn't realized I craved so deeply. But then, as I was working on the last 2 swings, carefully measuring the height, I noticed a deep, ominous crack in one of the main support beams, hidden beneath layers of old paint and grime. It wasn't just surface rust. The metal itself was compromised, a structural weakness that would make the swings dangerous. My heart sank, plummeting like a lead weight. Replacing it would require specialized equipment, more expensive materials, and skills I didn't possess for heavy-duty metal fabrication. It was a complete setback. Something I hadn't budgeted for, something I simply couldn't afford. I sat there on the grass, defeated, my tools scattered around me, the Brooklyn skyline blurring through a sudden film of tears. I had poured my heart, my meager savings, and every ounce of my rekindled hope into this project, only to hit a wall that felt insurmountable. I felt that old whisper return, stronger this time, telling me I was foolish, that I should have known better, that some things just couldn't be fixed. What was the point? I could just pack up my tools, go home, and let the broken swings be a monument to my own failed attempts to fix a broken world, a broken self. I was at my lowest point, truly contemplating giving up on everything. I spent the next hour just staring at that cracked beam, my head in my hands, feeling the weight of the city pressing down on me. I gathered my tools slowly, the metallic clinking sounding like a death knell to my dreams. As I was about to hoist my heavy toolbox onto the cart, a young man, probably in his early 20s, approached me. He had a backpack slung over his shoulder and a kind, curious look in his eyes. "Hey, Mr. Samuel," he said, his voice soft but clear. "I've been watching you work on these swings for weeks. You've really put in so much effort. What happened?" I just pointed to the cracked beam, unable to articulate the depth of my despair. He nodded, his brow furrowed in understanding. "That's a tough one," he admitted, then added, "My name's Mateo. My grandfather, he runs a metal shop not far from here, specialized in custom fabrication. He loves a challenge, and he's always talking about how important it is to give back to the neighborhood." My head snapped up, a tiny spark igniting within me. "A metal shop?" I stammered, hope and disbelief warring in my chest. Mateo smiled. "Yeah, look, let me give him a call. Maybe he can help. He always says, when something's worth fixing, you don't give up on it." Mateo pulled out his phone right there, and within 20 minutes his grandfather, a man with powerful hands and a warm smile named Mr. Henderson, arrived in an old pickup truck, his eyes twinkling as he assessed the damage. He didn't just offer advice. He offered his time, his expertise, and the use of his workshop. "We'll get this beam replaced, Samuel," he said, clapping me on the shoulder, "and we won't charge you a dime. This park, these swings, they belong to all of us." It was an act of unexpected kindness that caught me completely off guard, a lifeline thrown just as I was sinking. I felt a surge of something I hadn't felt in a long time, true gratitude and a willingness to accept help, to truly lean on someone else. It was my leap of faith, letting go of my stubborn pride and allowing myself to be part of something bigger. Over the next few days, I worked alongside Mateo and Mr. Henderson in his workshop, learning new techniques, sharing stories, and feeling a camaraderie that healed more than just a broken beam. Mr. Henderson taught me about welding, about the strength of different metals, and Mateo, with his youthful energy, helped me finish the final touches. When the last swing was installed, the children descended upon the playground like a flock of birds, their joyous shouts echoing through the park. I watched them, a lump in my throat as they soared into the sky, their laughter pure and unburdened. The swings were beautiful, stronger than ever, a testament not just to my work, but to the kindness of strangers, to the spirit of community that still thrived in Brooklyn. My new normal wasn't just having fixed swings, it was having found my place again. Mr. Henderson and I became fast friends, and I started helping him out in his shop occasionally, sharing my woodworking skills for custom projects. I also began teaching Mateo some basic carpentry, passing on the knowledge my father had taught me, watching his enthusiasm grow. I started a small, informal group of volunteers to help fix up other neglected spots in the neighborhood, little things that made a big difference. One day, a little girl no older than 5 approached me at the swings. "Thank you, Mr. Samuel," she said, her eyes wide and earnest. "These are the best swings ever." As she ran back to play, I noticed something etched into the fresh paint on one of the wooden seats, a simple message, carefully carved by a child's hand: "Hope soars." It wasn't my message, but it perfectly captured the feeling. Right then, I saw an old, faint carving on the main support beam, barely visible beneath a new coat of paint. A small, imperfect SM from when I was a boy trying to leave my mark on the world. I hadn't remembered carving it, but it was there, a ghost of my past self, now watching a new generation find joy. Things truly do get better sometimes. All it takes is a rusted swing, a helping hand, and a little bit of faith to show you the way back home.